Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing Infect. This is a deck that hasn't really seen a lot of play of late, but a few people are trying to bring it back and jam in this Ajani Sleeper Agent card, which seems quite an interesting way of doing it. So let's talk through what the deck is doing. Essentially, you're a sort of aggro slash combo deck where you have these 8 Infect creatures and 4 Inkmoth Nexus. So you've got 12 total Infect creatures, and you have pump spells. Pretty simple. You hit your opponent for 10 poison, and then they die. Now, Invigorate is one of the big draws for playing this deck. This is effectively free and gives your creature +4/+4. So you can really pump up your creatures and get the damage going. You can kill people as early as turn 2 with this deck, with things like Invigorates and Berserks to double the power and toughness, to double the power and give it trample. But I've split this deck in terms of the deck tech into a few key components. So we have our Infect creatures here and the Inkmoth Nexus, which we could probably add in there. We have the pump spells. We have our Disruption, which should also have these 2 Spell Pierce over there. So we've got a bunch of counter magic and sort of tempo-y counter spells like Daze and Spell Pierce, because we're probably not winning a long game with this deck, generally speaking. We also have this, which is a unique pump spell in the fact that it requires other work to have happened beforehand. So we need to have a decent enough sized graveyard before we can delve and become immense. That's why there's only one of them here. And then this is sort of like the glue of the deck. So we've got our cantrip effects, and we've got these Noble Hierarchs, which help accelerate us into like things like Ajani, or just playing threats and being able to hold up counter magic at the same time. And they also do pump our creatures a little bit as well. So that's pretty much it for the main deck. Previous versions of this have had quite a lot of different things going on. So you've had crop rotation builds, so you can go and find your Inkmoth Nexus or your Caracas and so on and so forth. This one is a lot more streamlined for doing the thing that we want to do and having the protection. So I've not played Infect in Legacy before. I played a little bit in Modern, but not a lot. But I'm curious to see how this new list pans out with the Ajani and the sort of the more streamlined-y type setup here. So let's have a little quick look at the sideboard here, and then we'll explain about Ajani a little bit more. So we've got a bunch of removal spells, because sometimes we're going to need to be removing stuff rather than countering things. So we can swap out a load of these in favour of removal spells. We could also swap out some other bits and pieces depending on what they are. Flusterstorm, because we're trying to go off on our turn by playing all our pump spells, we need a counter spell that we can use on our turn to... And this is a pretty good one if we're playing a load of spells and we want to counter an instant, which is most likely the things we're countering. A couple of surgical extractions, because sometimes you need to remove graveyards. And endurance, similar deal, but it's also a creature that we might be able to pump up with some various things and get a win with if things go wrong. And then we have 2 more Ajanis. So the reason why Ajani is in this deck, as far as I can work out, is the ultimate on it, which is only a -6 and it comes in at 4. So the ultimate is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. So this basically means that as soon as you pop this off, all of your creatures are incredibly powerful, because you can just win without ever having to attack with them or even resolve them, because it's a cast trigger. So this gives you a little bit of reach in the later game, as well as just giving you the ability to draw. And with things like Brainstorm and Ponder, you can fix the top of your deck so that you can get the extra card off of it as well. But even if you can't, it's still a sort of scry effect, because you can put it on the bottom. And the other ability of putting 3 +1/+1 counters on target creatures. So that is very effective here, because you can obviously make your unblockable creature or your Inkmoth, which is immune to sorcery speed removal. You can give them a load of counters to get your poison in over a couple of turns. So it's like a more permanent pump, which this deck doesn't normally have. So whether or not this is going to work and be good, I can't be sure. I should also mention one more thing about this, is it has the completed ability, which means the Phyrexian mana on it here, if you pay it for 2 life instead of mana, it comes in with less counters on. I think it comes in with, is it 2 less counters on it? But anyway, so we want to try and win the game relatively early, and then in some games where they're going to have a lot of removal, we're going to be relying a little bit more on Ajani to get the final bits of damage through, because this should hopefully dodge a lot of the removal they brought in for our creatures. And that's about it, really. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I've not played Legacy Infect, but I played against it a fair bit, and I used to hang around with a player who played a lot of Infect, and I learned a few things from them over the years. So before we jump into the league, let me just do a little plug and say if you could subscribe to my account, that would really help. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and it's the best way of helping out my channel. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by New Year's. So if you know anyone who's interested in watching like 5 Legacy Leagues a week, or at least picking from those to watch, then by all means send them my way. All right, let's jump into a league and see how we do. So we're on the play in game 1 here. We have a Glistener Elf into Blighted Agent, so we have the ability to ignore, to sort of get around the first bit of removal. We also have an Inkmoth Nexus. We only have 1 pump spell, we do have a Ponder to find more. I think this is a pretty simple keep. Now, the question of what land I lead off on is the interesting one, because if I can use this Windswept Heath to get a basic forest, which means I'm going to be less exposed to wasteland than if I play this Tropical Island. But we might want to keep the fetch land to make Ponders better and Brainstorms better. So it's a tricky one. I think just getting a forest into play, because that makes this free as well, and one that they can't wasteland away, is important. The other option here is also we can play things that we want them to wasteland that aren't our Inkmoth Nexus, so our Inkmoth Nexus is likely to hit, but because we have so many Infectors in this hand, I think we're best off getting the forest here. That's my rationale, at least. So we get our basic forest, and we play Glistener Elf. So our opponent is going to know exactly what we're doing when they see this card, but hopefully that won't make much of a difference. The other thing with playing the lands out differently, like Tropical Island, means we could play Inkmoth Nexus on 2 and then have it ready to go on turn 3, which we can't do because it'll be summoning sick if we play it on turn 3. Opponents cast a Mishra's Bauble, a cracking Mishra's Bauble. This means that they could be either a Delver deck, an 8-cast deck, or the Epic Storm deck. Those are my 3 main things I'm expecting. If they don't play a land, then I'm expecting them to be the Epic Storm, because they're far less likely to play a land on turn 1, especially when they had a full grip. Okay, so I have a Daze here. So now we definitely want to play this Tropical Island. The question here is, I think we do just Ponder because we might be able to get a Berserk here. And Invigorate. So if we take the Invigorate, we can't kill this turn, but we can kill next turn. So I think we put Windswept Heath, Invigorate, Glistener Elf, and we will not shuffle. And then we will simply attack. And then our second main phase will play out another Glistener Elf. And then next turn we have 2 Invigorates, which is +8. So if one of our Glistener Elf dies, we can still kill them. Now our opponent, I'm expecting to be a combo deck, by the fact they didn't play a land with a 7-card hand. So we're hoping that they have a Galvanic Relay turn this turn rather than a just Storm Off and Kill Me turn. We do have 1 piece of interaction in terms of the days. Our opponent went to Cleanup, Veil of Summer. Okay. So I think we just play out the Nexus. We go to attacks. And we'll split the damage on both of them in case they do have something for one of them. We have the days back up here. This is 10 Infect. Okay, so I think my opponent is playing the Epic Storm because Veil of Summer is a bit of a giveaway alongside the Bauble. So, what is going to be good against the Storm player? Fluster Storms are the main one. The Surgical Extractions have text, but they aren't incredible. The Ajani is probably going to be weaker here. This is more of a grindy card. At least that's how I anticipate it being. And then we're just looking to cut something here. So we're probably just cutting some of our cantrips because our creatures are quite like to survive. So we're not going to be trying to find more creatures. If we want to board in Surgicals... do we want the Surgicals? The Surgicals aren't great against the Epic Storm. They're fine, but we might be able to do better. I think we'll submit like this and see how we go. We get to be on the play for game 3 if there is one. We need a creature, so we're going to mulligan this one. I don't think Inkmoth Nexus on its own is going to do it here. I think we have to mulligan again. Yikes, this is real bad. Our opponent is mulligan to 5, so they might just Echo Beyond us anyway. But I think we have to go to 4 here. This is the best hand we've had so far, so we'll keep this. So we need to keep Tropical Island, Glistener Elf, Flusterstorm, and Berserk is probably the... It's either the Berserk or the Spell Pierce here. So I think we're definitely getting rid of the Vines. Because we don't have to worry about our mana base, I think we're just going to play the... Because we're going to tap out for 1 on this. And it's a case of what? So if we keep the Berserk, if we get an Invigorate, we just have the kill. So I think we put back the Spell Pierce here. This can give us a turn 2 kill if we draw an Invigorate. Now, we might just die before then. But, okay. So this goes and gets us a Tropical Island to turn on potential dazes. Not just in terms of what we can cast, but what our opponent thinks we can cast. And then after this, we're not going to tap out again until we kill our opponent. Unless we run out of blue spells to cast. Our opponent's played a Bloodstone Mire. They're cracking a fetch. I was kind of hoping to get another turn so my Flusterstorm would be live. Yep, they're cracking the other one, so it's going to get Tiger, because that's the 2 best combinations of lands to have. Yep. Definitely playing the Epic Storm. Rite of Flame. So the reason I play out my threat there instead of doing the Flusterstorm is if I don't get a threat down, our opponent's under no pressure to go off at any point. Whereas at least this way, if I untap after this, that'll be good. Otherwise, I'm going to be in the same situation if I don't draw a land anyway. So it's always right to get pressure down against Storm. Okay, Galvanic Relay. Okay, so they found a payoff in the Wishclaw Talisman, which is also one I can't counterspell with a Flusterstorm. Spell Pierce, on the other hand, will clean that up. So we'll attack. This is effectively a 2-2 on its own in terms of like how you would compare it to normal damage. But we need a bit more mana to get going here. So the Burning Wish is exiled already. So there's the Lotus Petal. Sure. So they could do a big Galvanic Relay turn and I might be able to counter all the copies of the Galvanic Relay. So we can Spell Pierce this, but our opponent will get to pay. They still have 2 cards in hand. So I think we're going to let this go and try and get there with the Flusterstorm. Okay, they're just passing. Unswept Heath. We're going to attacks. Okay. So if we draw another land next turn, like another green source, we can kill them. Or if they give us the Wishclaw Talisman and don't win. This is an interesting one. I think we Spell Pierce this one and force them to pay. They will pay on this one. I'm going to crack this now for a Tropical Island. Just so I can't get caught out by timings later on. So if they pay for this, that's fine for me. Yeah, sure. I can counter this now. This is probably getting a Thoughtseize, I'd have to imagine, right? Or let's have a think. What are the options it can get here? It can get the Tenor. They've only got 1 card in hand. It must be going for the Echo. I think we just cast this straight up, actually. So we effectively taxed their mana quite a lot there. By using the Spell Pierce first, it meant they wouldn't be able to go and do another thing like a Galvanic Relay very easily. So if we draw a green source, we win this turn. We did not draw a green source. So this can only hit. So I can do this, but then not have any mana up. So I think we have to attack here. And then see if we can use the Flusterstorm to survive the next turn. They have a lot of mana, so Flusterstorm is not going to be the most useful. But we can hopefully do something with it. If we force them to use the Wishclaw and they don't win on that turn, then we get to win. They have 1 card in hand. They can't cast these. So the 1 card in hand's got it pretty good. If it's an Ad Nauseam, I can Flusterstorm it, but I can't pay. But they can pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, they can't pay actually. So that'd be good for us. Okay, I'm getting another turn here. Green source. Invigorate. Okay. If they have a bounce spell, we've got Vines of Vastwood as well. Okay, so we got the match pretty quickly there. This is a bit of a race, this one, but I do have interaction alongside my race, but I do have to tap down early on, as you saw. I think the turn where we countered the Burning Wish with the Spell Pierce was quite good there. We sort of baited them into not being able to cast any other spells. All right, happy with how that went. Let's go into round 2. We're on the play for round 2, which is good for us, although our hand is not as exciting as previous ones. So I think we keep, and we have a Blighted Agent as our creature here. If we lead off with the Tropical Island Ponder, we expose ourselves to a Wasteland. But if the Wasteland hits our Tropical Island rather than our Inkmoth Nexus, that might not be the worst, but then we are shut off from blue mana. So we're probably looking for a setup with our Ponder that gives us blue mana, as well as like some goodies, like Berserk, for example. Okay, our opponent started on 6. Let's cast this Ponder. We do want the selection of cards, but in what order? I think Hierarch, Invigorate, Hierarch. So he can play out the Blighted Agent next turn, and the Hierarch with Invigorate, with double Invigorate the turn after, and that's lethal. Now our opponent obviously has things to say about that, so hopefully we can brainstorm into a Casper. Okay, so this is a Gemstone Mine, which means either depths, like either Rainbow Depths or Dredge mostly, but the fact they didn't do anything else makes me suspect Rainbow Depths. Okay, so this turn, I think play out the Nexus, cast this for blue and 1. So this not being able to be blocked is pretty useful for us because they can gum up the works with first strikers in the Hex Mage as well as just the 2020 or the Elvish Reclaimer. Yeah, this definitely looks like depths to me. Hex Mage, there it is. So our opponent is out of resource. So we have the win sewn up, I think. So play this one out. I'll enable Hierarch. So our opponent would need a free spell to interact with us. I'm trying to think what free spells our opponents have game 1. I don't think there are any. Let's just go to attacks. So this will make it 2. This is +4. This is another +4. Always up to this. And do this. I have a brainstorm if I need it. We got it or not? They have 0 mana and they can't block. They could have Elvish Spirit Guide, which might force us to brainstorm into blue card force or days, because we'd have to counter the crop rotation. Okay, so we got the turn 3 on that one. Me correctly identifying what they had was good, I guess. All right, let's go on to the sideboard. So in this matchup, Swords to Plowshares is pretty good because we don't actually care about our opponent's life total. The Swords to Plowshares is going to be pretty useful here. Flusterstorm, I think, is because it's the Rainbow Depths. They have like a lot of spells they can fire off in quick succession. So I think the Flusterstorm is just going to be good for countering things like crop rotation, which really sets them back. Now, whether or not I want the prismatic endings, I don't know. I think we're probably trimming Ponders and the Ajani, because the Ajani is much for the slower matchups as far as I can work out. And I think we need the Hierarchs to get above what our opponent's doing, which then leads us to question what the other 2 cards coming out are. So, like I said, I'm not used to playing this deck. The Glistening Elves aren't actually amazing here, but we probably have to keep them in regardless. So what are we trying to get rid of here? Maybe the Become Immense. We might have enough turns to stack up our graveyard for it. We definitely can't afford to take out another pump spell. So I think it's either like a Hierarch or it can't be a Brainstorm. I think we ditch off a Hierarch here. We'll try it like this. Like I guess we can keep a Hierarch and then remove a Daze and then swap that around when we're on the play. That's okay. We don't have pump spells. We do have a Swords to Plowshares. Our opponent did see white mana in the last game, unfortunately, so they're going to know we're going to have plows. But we have 2 Infectors as well as an Inkmoth Nexus. We have access to both colours of mana, and we have a Brainstorm to dig for a selection of pump spells. So this seems like a straight up keep to me. The Glistening Elf might be a bit weaker if they lead off with a Hex Mage. Okay. So you've got Thespian Stage and Lotus Pearl. That's a good draw for us. So we're a Berserk away from winning. So we can try and brainstorm into it next turn if we need to. But it depends how much mana our opponent keeps available. So they might be able to kill us this turn. We have the Berserk, so we can cast everything here. Yes, I think we go for it with this Swords to Plowshares as our... Because they don't have access to black right now, so... Taking this guy, tap it for green. Go attacks. The way we get blown out here is if they can make the 2020. Yeah, so there's a Spirit Guide that I thought was coming. If they have the Not of This World as well, is the way we get blown out here. They did not have it. Cool. So we got a cheeky turn 2 there as well. So that was 2-0 very quickly so far with this deck. And yeah, feels pretty good. All right, on to the 3rd round. We're on the play again, which is nice. We don't have any threats aside from the Inkmoth Nexus, which is a very mana-intensive threat. But we do have a Brainstorm to try and fix it, but we'd have to bin off our fetch land to get the blue source in the first place. So this feels like one of those hands where I could do better, but this hand is also going to be fine against some situations because we have the protection. I think this is pretty marginal as to whether I keep this one. We do have 3 lands, so we have the ability to play this, and if we draw a Berserk, I think we're okay. It's awkward because we can't really go all in on the Nexus. If we play the Nexus out, we're relying on Force of Will rather than Daze. I think we keep and try it. I've not played this deck, so this will be a good learning exercise at the very least. Is Inkmoth Nexus enough? Like, obviously a Wasteland and we're just done. So maybe this should have been a mulligan. So the choices here is either we play out the Misty Rainforest so that we can hold up a Daze, or we play out the Inkmoth Nexus so we can hold up the Force of Will and try and spike the Berserk or Brainstorm into Berserk next turn. One of these lines is safer. I think the Misty Rainforest line is the safer line. Also plays around Wasteland better, so I'm inclined to play the slightly safer line here, just because we've got double counterspell. We might as well have access to using them both if that becomes necessary. Grief. Okay. We do not want this grief. So float blue, and we'll cast this. Now we can Brainstorm here, but Brainstorm will lose us our ability. Oh, City of Brass. This gives me the impression there might be, yeah, the Bridge from Below as well. So this is Dredge rather than Reanimator. So they're going to go to their second main phase before doing anything. I don't want to fire off the Brainstorm in case I don't hit a blue card. I already have a blue card for Force of Will. So what else would I be looking for at that point? Okay. So this means our plan does not involve us getting hit by a Wasteland here, because our opponent will not have Wastelands in their deck. There could be something else, but Bridge from Below and Grief is usually a pretty good signifier that our opponent's on Dredge, which is a deck that I adore. But let's see what we have. Cephalid Colosseum. Yep, still looking like Dredge to me. Cabal Therapy. Targeting me. Well, I can't. The only thing I can do is Force of Will this, and that's not really worth doing, so we're just going to let it hit. Oh, they named Invigorate. Interesting. Okay, they're playing sort of like much more control-y than I thought for a Dredge player. Maybe they're not Dredge. Maybe they're some sort of unusual brew. Our opponent knows we have these 2 Brainstorms in hand, so Cabal Therapy is going to be extra good against us. If they have another one. It's a case of whether or not I want to get the Noble Hierarch up and running or risk losing both my Brainstorms. I think I have to play out this Tropical Island. Our opponent's not representing much of a threat right now. They seem to be just trying to make us lose all of our cards. Curious why our opponent kept this hand. Okay, it's back to us again. So we have a Vines of Vastwood. I think this time we're just playing out this. Because if we activate the Inkmoth Nexus and attack for 1, it's the same as playing this and attacking for 2 next turn. Okay, tapping their City of Brass. Their life total is not relevant here. Firestorm. So they've already discarded their cards for turn. Is it worth me saving my Hierarch with Vines of Vastwood or not? That is the question. Let me cast Brainstorm. None of these are very good, but it does let me know that we have lots of mana coming up. So we don't really need the Hierarch. If we had a load of pump spells there instead of mana, then maybe I keep the Hierarch around using like Force of Will or something. So they're going to Dredge 6 this turn, and then they're going to activate their Cephalid Colosseum. Let's pop the graveyard out so we can have a good look at it. Okay, so they've hit 2 Narcomoebas on their first Dredge. It's pretty good. So they can flash back this Cabal Therapy and hit these Brainstorms of ours. And they're going to Dredge Golgari Grave Troll. And maybe more, depending on what they find. Okay, they're playing an Otherworldly Gaze build. Interesting. I've not actually tried this one out myself, I don't think. Okay. So there go the Narcomoebas. Be interesting to know what our opponent names here, because they know we have a Brainstorm and a Force of Will. The Narcomoebas having flying is pretty annoying for us. Names Force of Will, sure. Now they can go and take the 2 Brainstorms now, which feels like too tempting not to do. If I were them, I would do that. It just kind of cuts my hand off of so much action. I think this game is done for. Yep, there we go. We're not dead yet, but things are looking bad. Let's have this. We know what's on top of our library, so we're just going to crack this now so we can F6 through turns. We don't have any white cards apart from Ajani in our main deck. How good is Ajani going to be on this board? I don't know. I'd rather not show my opponent white, so maybe I shouldn't have cracked this now. But we know we're cracking it to avoid the card on top. We're not attacking into a Narcomoeba, so we just have to wait. How many Icarus? Just the one? Just the one. Okay, so we don't have a long time to survive. Okay, so they've hit their last Narcomoeba now. This should just be on a case of just dredging this now and that being enough. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we are dead on our next turn. So we need to hit... I don't really know what we can hit because they've got the Narcomoebas back on blocks. I think we are just dead here, but we'll take another draw step just in case. Like Berserk. Oh, that definitely doesn't do it. Okay, we'll concede the game here. All right. So we would like to board in some surgical extractions and endurances. This Ajani, sadly, is not looking good again. Days is probably fine. The Become Immense is not great here. It's a little bit slow. We can have Swords to Plowshares to make sure that the Icarids stay dead forever. That's something that we can board if we want to. We have these counter spells, which will seem pretty good. The Force of Will might just be better off as Flusterstorms. But if we're tapping out for a threat on turn 1, we're going to need the Force of Will backup, aren't we? So I don't think we have time to sort of ponder around. So you can trim those and put in a Flusterstorm. Call it a day like this. Try and counterspell their first thing and then beat them with a quick clock. Be nice if I had some lands, but it doesn't. So let's mulligan. I don't think I can keep this. Haven't found a coloured source and we're all the way down to 4 now. This has some spells that I like, so we keep this. Keep 4 of these. So we need to keep 2 lands. We need to keep the Surgical Extraction, I think. Probably need to keep the day. No, we need to keep a creature. So get rid of the scale up. We can't afford to 2-for-1 ourselves like this. Do we keep the days or do we keep the Blighted Agent? I think we probably just keep the Blighted Agent and try and get there with this. Our opponent's mulligan to 3 cards, which is good for us. It means they're probably only going to have a single Dredger, which Surgical Extraction will hopefully help with. But they will be on the play if we go to a game 3. So I can play out this as a tropical island to represent days, or I can play out this in case I get my Blighted Agent Cabal Therapied. I think it's probably better to do this because they're more likely to play into my Surgical Extraction. I think they're just going to have to play into it anyway, right? They mull to 3, so they don't have a lot of leeway in what they're doing this turn. So for Colosseum, and no play. Interesting. Otherworldly Gaze. Sure. None of those are dredges. That's good for us. I'm going to get Tropical Island. Play out an Infector. Blue. And the next time we can play out the Noble Hierarch. And it's not the fastest clock, but it'll do for now. It doesn't take much to change things. Sure, you can cast this. So ideally we want to find no dredges, but if they find 1 dredger, we can exile it still. So we have to surgically extract this on our turn because we can't let them go to their turn and dredge around. So we're just going to keep it simple and surgically extract the dredgers. So they can cast Breakthrough for 1 on their next turn. Make sure to exile the one in the graveyard, that's important. Okay, so we'll pop out their hand so we know what's coming. The Blighted Agent versus the Hierarch doesn't really make much difference, except this gives me the ability to play more spells on the following turn if I draw something. So I think we attack, get 2 damage in. We're going to need something to speed up the clock, I think, because our opponent's eventually going to hit something. Like they can break through this turn, and then next turn they can Cephalid Colosseum. Yep, so there's a breakthrough. Now if they find a Lion's Eye Diamond off this, and some dredges, then they can really go. None of those are dredges. That's pretty bad for our opponent. But they have this, which gives them red mana for the purposes of casting the Faithless Looting, which may or may not be in their hand right now. And Invigorate. Okay, this is a good one. Still not enough for lethal here. I think we go attacks. This is 2. This puts them to 4 poison. Now if we play this guy out and next time we attack, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whereas if we attack with just this guy, it's also lethal. So this just gives us the most amount of ways of having lethal damage next turn. And because it's the unblockable guy, it's going to be very hard for our opponent to do anything. Okay, they break through for 0. No, they break through for 1, didn't they? Just for the mana confluence, that was it. So they can start casting Faithless Looting from their bin. But I think we should have this one. So if they find a Faithless Looting here, or a Lionside Diamond, they can keep going this turn. But if they didn't, then we can just hopefully get things done. They can't Firestorm us because they don't have the cards in hand. And we have the days now. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which will be enough. So I think we attack with just the 1. Get the lethal in. And this should be the game. I've got a daze in case something happens. Okay, cool. So we go to game 3. Daze on the play versus another Flusterstorm. They're both kind of similar and both kind of bad. Like, we need to have a land in play anyway, and we're probably playing a threat if we have a land in play. So I think... Or is it the Noble Hierarch that goes in favour of a Flusterstorm? That's probably a bit better. It's another blue card for Force of Will as well. Okay, we'll submit like this. We have less time to make a hand with... Oh, where's all these lands in our deck, right? We have less time to make a Blighted Agent and win with it in this game, potentially. So, right, let's see if we can find a mana source. This is just missing a threat. We have Graveyard Hate and we have a blue spell. I think we can keep this. And we bin back the Vines. And we have a Brainstorm to go and find us what we need. Right, so Gemstone Mine. A Grief. Yep, this is going to hit us. So we're probably going to lose our Surge of Extraction here. Which means we need to Brainstorm into Blighted Agent. And... Oh, they've got a lines like that. We've probably lost this game. Have to imagine they have something. So they can go cast Breakthrough, crack this in response, or cast Faithless Looting, crack this in response, put Dredges in. Interesting. They're just going for a very conservative line. Just get rid of our 2 Invigorates. Sure. So our opponent has discarded... Oh, they hit themselves. That's interesting. Makes a bit more sense. Okay. So we want to use this one. And... Does it matter if we Brainstorm now? I don't think it does. I think we can wait until we need to. And we're looking for a Blighted Agent and a Berserk. Okay, so Dredged. What have we got here? Just a Narcomoeba. So we will fire this off in the turn because we don't have a lot of turns left in this game, I don't think. The Blighted Agent that we wanted, but not the Berserk. So we'll just do this. On tap. Put this out. We now have white spells right now, so we're just going to crack this and go and get Tropical Island. Cast for blue. Blue. We have Force of Will or Daze, so it's probably going to be a Force of Will, if anything. Our opponent has 1 Dredger in the bin right now. Okay, an Icarid. So we need 2 combat steps at the present to win the game. Our opponent knows we have these Invigorates in hand. So they're probably going to cast Cabal Therapy targeting us. That would be my assumption. They have 1 bridge. We have to counterspell this Cabal Therapy. You to the bridge. Exile this. So if we draw a Berserk this turn, we win the game. Or another Invigorate. A Spell Pierce. So we can do 9 this turn. Because they know we have it, I think we just do it this turn. It means if they have any Cabal Therapies, it doesn't take off our clock. So they have to kill us on this turn through a Spell Pierce, which, with a Lionside Diamond in hand, is pretty... Well, depends if they've got a line to either kill our guy or Dread Return something. At present, it looks like we're okay. Faith is Looting. They only have a Golgari Thug. I think we Spell Pierce this one and force the Lionside Diamond crack. But then if they have 2 floating, they only need 1 more. No, yeah, we do this. So they have a Thug, Troll in hand, yeah. So they're going to do this to pay. But it means they don't get to Faithless Looting twice this turn. I think it's right to do it this way around in case they hit some stuff that can mess with us. Okay, none of this stops us from killing them, I don't think. Yes, okay, we got the match. Yeah, felt pretty good about that one. Yeah, not much else to say. Let's go on to round 4. This is a blisteringly fast league. Won the die roll again like a boss, and this is the opening hand I've been presented. So last time we kept the Inkmoth Nexus hand, it did work out, but I think, because it's so vulnerable to Wasteland, I'm tempted to mulligan here. This is just like a bunch of stuff. I don't really know what my opponent's playing. So we have Disruption. We do have a threat. We have... This is tricky. I think we'll keep. And we'll lead on the Tropical Island, because if they Wasteland it, that's good for us, because it means our Inkmoth Nexus doesn't get Wastelanded. Again, I'm not sure if this is right. I've not played Legacy Infect before. I'm just running with my logic that tells me that this can be okay. We have 2 cantrips. Also mean we have 3 mana, so we're live for being able to invigorate Berserk. So we can ponder here, or we can spell, or we can hold up for a Spell Pierce. I'm gonna hold up for the Spell Pierce or potential Brainstorm if something really bad happens. A swamp. Just the swamp. And no follow up. Not that many decks that play just basic swamp. Think about the Nexus this turn. And then maybe try and Brainstorm into the kill next turn with all of our protection. Since we have a lot of protection right now. Ancient Tomb. Yep, so this looks like the Helm deck. I can't really Spell Pierce this one. Khan the Great Creator. Definitely Spell Pierce this one though. No, thank you. They could Dark Ritual here. We couldn't daze that because they had 1 floating. Another Inkmoth Nexus. So I think this is the turn we go for a Ponder. Become Immense. That's quite a lot of damage. As is the Noble Hierarch. So I think we put the daze on the bottom. Then... Oh, we only get 1 of these if we do it that way though, don't we? So you can't play the Noble Hierarch out this turn. Unless we want to bin off the Become Immense. It's quite a tricky decision point. I think we keep the Become Immense here. And then we can shuffle away Brainstorm and find any other... So how many is this? We've got 2 things in our graveyard at the moment. So this still costs 4. So we're still a little ways away. But we've got some interaction. This Ancient Tomb is not going to cost our opponent anything. So they're going with a Khan again. Okay, I'm going to Brainstorm and see if I can get any better indication about what things I should be pitching here. Let's go for this. Okay. This seems quite nice. So scale up makes it 6. Become Immense is lethal. So I think we put this one back. This one back. And I think we hit this Khan. Because I don't know what it can get and I'm scared. It could be Pithing Needle, which would really be a problem. I don't think they have interaction for 1 black mana. These decks tend not to play Fatal Push. Which one of these is a Summoning Sick one? How can you tell which one is a Summoning Sick one? Newly Controlled. This one does not say Newly Controlled. So this is a Sorcery. So cast targeting this guy for green. Okay, our opponent just seemed to F6 through that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And a green. Good attacks. 12 poison, please. Okay. That went well. A Khan deck. So I'm assuming that they're the Leyline Helm deck that runs like Rotting Regisaur and a bunch of other things. So I think I want some amount of these Swords of Plowshares in. Again, I don't think this is an Ajani matchup. Not really finding those. I think those are the sort of slower, controllier ones. The daze on the play is going to be very bad when they've got all the bonus mana. So we can easily swap those out. How useful is a Flusterstorm or something going to be? I'm not convinced it's going to be particularly useful. Prismatic Ending can hit some of their guys. That's probably better than the dazes here. I think we can submit like this. We're on the play for the last game, so we're probably going to board in the dazes back. An unblockable guy, some removal, an invigorate, Inkmoth Nexus. I think this is a keep. Lay down in the void. Sure. This just Dark Ritual into Dark Ritual turn. Okay, so this is probably going to take my Blighted Agent. Could take the Invigorate though. Depends if they think I'm more likely to have threats. Because this is a relatively costly threat. So I took the Invigorate. I see. Well, I'm not casting it, right? So let's go green and get this guy. 1 mana, 1/1. Let's go. And Herborg. And no follow-up. Sure. So I think I should play out things that our opponent knows we have. So let's go to attacks. Just a 1 and a 1/1. And then we'll try this Blighted Agent. So now we've got 2 damage a go. 3 if we want to activate the Ink Moth. So we can kind of get a fair win with just these bad guys without any pump spells. Seed of Traitors. This could be a Helm of Obedience turn. Plague Engineer. So this is a Phyrexian Elf Warrior, this is a Phyrexian Human. Okay, so they're both dying. Cool. It's a Phyrexian itself though. That's Phyrexian or Phyrexian Violence. You hate to see it. That's pretty good. We'll just turn into a Phyrexian. Okay. So I need to kill their guy before I do anything else. The timing is going to be interesting here because they could have a opposition agent. But I think we need to just get the damage in here. Let's see. Okay, they needed to have Dark Ritual and opposition agent, and so it seemed relatively unlikely. Right, let's kill this. It's going to become a guy. Get 1 poison in. 8 more hits to go. So if they have Land Helm, we just die. So, but next turn, next game, we can just go tempo with Dazes on the play. Okay, because they've got it, they've got it. Could just be a Khan though. Shouldered. Okay, that's fine. We don't care about that. We play this out. Resource to Plowshares, they're shouldered. That's the newly controlled. This one is not newly controlled. Let's go to attacks. So scale up does it for us if we draw the scale up. Because we can activate both, play a land, scale up one. This is a Rotting Regisaur. This is the problem. Yep. Maybe we didn't need to swords that guy, I don't know. This guy, we'll keep these lands in hand for the purposes of brainstorms. So we need to find Prismatic Ending or a Source to Plowshares. I guess we can start beating for 1 if we really want to, but that's not going to get us very far. Helm of Obedience. Okay, so we're just dead now. Unless they want to activate at a different time. No. Okay, we just concede. So, I want these Dazes back in on the play. I think we can probably cut one of the endings and we'll cut the Ponders. How good is Spell Pierce against them? It does counter their main win condition. So I don't hate that. I think we're going to submit like this. Turn 1 Thoughtseize is pretty good against us. We don't really go anywhere. I think we mulligan this. This is unplayable because it's got no lands. Okay, this one looks a bit better. We're going to have to work for it, but I think it's okay. We'll keep 2 cards on the bottom. So we don't have the mana for this, so that's got to go. I think we can pitch a spare Blighted Agent. Right, let's go get ourselves a Tropical Island. Go and make a Glistener Elf. So they Dark Ritual into Phyrexian Carrier Man, that's fine. We've got that covered. A Chrome Mox. Okay. Looks like they're playing around a daze maybe. Because they were going to do something first. And didn't. A Thoughtseize. No point Thoughtseize in that. I think we have to let this hit us, which is annoying. He's already mulliganed quite a lot here. Thoughtseize against the mulligan player is always pretty grim. Okay, so our Force of Will's gone. And now we have this daze that they know to play around. Not great. Noble Hierarch. We'll snap this off. Get 2 poison in. So they can play a Soul Land and then play the Plague Engineer, and then we're in trouble. Because we cannot daze that. If they play a regular land, they can't because they now have a daze. Okay, so it's a swamp. We might be able to blow our opponent out a little bit here with the second daze. Oh. Are they doing something? Could be Sudden Edict. That's usually the removal spell of choice in these decks. Nope. Okay. So we've got hard cast days. So maybe we can get them. And we can draw a scale up and win. Not today, Plague Engineer. Now draw scale up and win. Or invigorate. Spell Pierce. Because of Plague Engineer, I definitely don't want to play out a second Glistener Elf. A second threat, because they're all 1/1s. So we're kind of relying on the Spell Pierce to keep us in this game for another turn. It's tense stuff, actually. Oh. Helm of Obedience. Not today. Come on, Pump Spell. Not a Pump Spell. I'm trying to keep this card in hand so I can represent Force of Will. Got to fade this one turn. Oh no. 4 mana. Helm of Obedience. Okay. So what they can do is they can spin this for 1 to try and get a creature to block with. I think that's their play here. They're debating whether or not I do it now in case I draw a Brainstorm. Yeah, here we go. Please don't hit a creature. They did not hit a creature. Attack for 2 poison. We got there. All it took was a Noble Hierarch. The day's play was the draw in the days was quite nice. So we managed to go 4-0 so far, which is it's not even midnight yet. So this is a nice quick league for me so far. I'm really enjoying this one. All right, let's go into the final for the trophy. We're into the final round, and we did not win the die roll, which is a bit sad. This is our opening hand. I think we have to mulligan to a threat, so we're going to hit the mulligan button. This has almost everything. Like we can maybe ponder into a threat. I think I'm going to keep this and try and ponder into a threat. I just like the Hierarch quite a lot here. City of Traitors. Okay, this could be chalice for 1, and then we're in trouble. Painted Servant. Okay. Painted Servant name in blues. This is most likely red painter. Crack this for a tropical island. Now the choice here is whether we ponder or we play out the Noble Hierarch. I think we're incentivized here to ponder. We have a Glistener Elf. It's going to be a little bit hard to push the Glistener Elf through. We have double Invigorate on an Inkmoth Nexus. So we probably want the Inkmoth Nexus here, I'd say. So there we go. Glistener Elf, Brainstorm, put Inkmoth Nexus on top. So they've certainly thrown down the gauntlet. They might be able to kill us very quickly here. A Grindstone. Okay, so they can kill us next turn. And we couldn't even daze that because they have the mana floating. Urza's Saga. Interesting. That means they probably have another Soul Land in hand, I'd imagine. Otherwise, you play that next turn and kill me. Oh, they're just killing us now. Okay, we'll concede so they don't see our deck. Sure. Well, that was a very quick one, wasn't it? So these Endurance can buy us another turn and shuffle our library in. These Plows can kill, and these Prismatic Endings are going to be good here. Force of Will seems bad against the Million Pyroblast deck. And for similar reasons, some of these other cards might have similar problems. But we need to protect our guys a little bit. So we need to cut quite a few cards here. So we can try and trim the ponders, since we're bringing in things anyway. Instead of needing to find them, we just have more of the things on our deck. And then maybe we can trim some Dazes, or think about the Spell Pierce. Like the Spell Pierce catches... I think the Dazes are just going to be bad here, right? They have so many Soul Lands. So we board like this. We've got a lot less counter magic here, and we're kind of relying on removal to break up their combo. Or we still get to bring 2 more back in, actually, don't we? So we can either keep 2 ponders or 2 Dazes. Maybe keep 2 Dazes in. The Surgicals have text because they're going to have things like Goblin Engineers. I think we're going to play like this thing. Not quite sure how to play this matchup, or indeed even this deck at times. But this hand has a Spell Pierce into Blighted Agent. It's not very exciting. Going to need to draw some more stuff, really. But we only need a Berserk, and this goes off. But it is also the threat that's weakest against the Red Blast deck. Like our opponent's only going to be bringing in Red Blasts here. I think we mulligan to a more aggressive hand. Certainly aggressive. Definitely need to draw some mana sources here though. How much faith do I have that I can draw a second mana source? I can leave it up to the heart of the cards. So I draw a second mana source, this hand is pretty good. But if I don't, then I'm really stuffed. We can cast the swords. We're going to believe in the heart of the cards. Like, you don't 5-0 without getting a little bit lucky. So let's give it a go. Okay, now our opponent knows what we're playing. I doubt they brought in more Furies, but they still have the 2 main deck Furies. They probably just brought in more Hydroblast because they saw Ponder. They saw the Tropical Island, which probably makes them think Control, like some sort of hero deck. Okay, so we have an Ancient Tomb, Summon Spirit and Exiles. This is Favour the Mirror Breaker, most likely. Oh no, it's a Grindstone, and they're going to cast Painter as well. Thorn of Amethyst. Sure. It's pretty good against us, since we kind of need some mana sources here. I would say our opponent is favoured in a massive way here. And there's not a lot we can do about it. Is this the Fable? Painstone. Okay, so we are dead on our next turn. So our opponent just had the turn 2 kill and then the turn 3 kill. We did not draw a second mana source. I guess this isn't the one. We came so close. But I think we had to keep this hand and believe in the heart of the cards. They're going to do it in my upkeep, presumably. Sure. Alright. So, we went 4-1 with the deck, so let's have a look at it. I never got to play Ajani Sleeper Agent, and I bought it out all the time. Obviously, that's partly due to the matchup, because it's not as if we weren't playing against the sort of slow, grinding control decks. We were playing against combos, sort of things. We had like Dredge, and we had Painter. So we kind of didn't really have the options to keep the Ajani in. We were kind of glad that we didn't see it in those games either, really, since we were boarding it out so much. But the deck felt pretty clean and smooth. This feels a cleaner version than the older builds that used to have the crop rotations to go and find their guys and so on. But the mono black deck very nearly put us in the ground because they had the old Plague Engineers. That was quite a tight game. We had some exciting games, a little bit back and forth, and we also just absolutely steamrolled it through people quite quickly on numerous occasions. Feels like this hand is... This deck is kind of got some certain vulnerabilities. Like, you are trying to win with creatures that are 1/1s when they don't have anything alongside them. But they are all Phyrexians now, which they didn't used to be. So maybe there is an option of bringing in some kind of pump a creature type, like Rally in the ranks even, just to make sure you can get above things like Plague Engineers if you expect a lot of them in the meta you're playing in. The Painter matchup at the end, like, when Painter just has really good hands, it's very difficult to beat. Even if I had, with the Glistener Elf there, if I'd have drawn into lands, I would have been able to hit their guy, which would have been nice. But I think I also got shut down quite a lot by their Thorn for other draws. Maybe we should have mulliganed harder. We did mulligan quite hard in this league, and we still ended up with a 4-1 despite going to like 4 and things. So yeah, I was very happy with this deck and the way it played. The sideboard, it does seem like an awful lot of removal. I understand they remove different things for the swords in the ending. Like, the ending is obviously going to be better for hitting things like Chalice, which I can see is going to be an issue if you've got all these 1-drops and so on and so forth. The Vines didn't feel very good in this league, but that's because I only played against like combo-y decks and I was just trying to race people. So the Vines felt pretty medium there. Whereas if I'd have had more scale-ups, they would have been better. Also, I know the modern lists used to run, I think it's called Distortion Strike, which is just blue +2/+0 and unblockable to a guy. Now, obviously, your Blight Agent is unblockable already, but being able to push through a Glistener Elf or an Inkmoth Nexus when they have like Narcomoebas or whatever else in the air could be a useful option. The Counter Magic Suite felt fine. I don't think it makes sense to have the Dazes here, and the Spell Pierce is another tempo thing, and the main thing you're trying to counter is instants. So yeah, I think I like the deck. I imagine if I was to run this again, I could feel pretty confident getting a decidedly positive record. It felt pretty close until that final round. I didn't really feel like we were being challenged too much by our opponents because of the way things lined up. I would have liked to have run into some control decks so I could try out the Ajani and also see how this fares against the more removal heavy opponent. But yeah, I think that's about it for today. And yeah, Infect's still good as it turns out. Much better than I was expecting it to be. I know a few people have been working on it lately, so maybe we'll see some more lists cropping up and winning some tournaments. Alright, before I go, one more time, I'm going to plug my channel. So if you could please scroll down and hit that subscribe button, it really helps me out and it doesn't cost you a penny. Likes and comments are also very welcome. I like to hear back from you all. I get some very nice comments from time to time that make me, you know, proud to be doing what I'm doing and making this content for you all. And please share my content as far as wide as you see fit. If you've got local legacy groups, just post up in there, say you found some random guy making some videos, because I'm going to be making 4 to 5 videos a week, and with the new set coming up soon, I'm going to have lots of experimental, weird and wonderful stuff for you lot to see. So hopefully that'll be quite fun. All right, I think I'm done now. So thank you for watching and goodbye.